I'm Dave Freund, and I'm super excited to be here with Michael Longo from Upstate. Michael, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, no
So
problem. Thank you for having me.
tell us, what do you do for Upstate?
Oh, well, my exact role is called an instructional designer, if you were to try to look it up by what it's actually called. But more or less, what I do is I train the electronic medical record that we use called Epic in our
Mm,
departments with our clinical physicians, nurses, techs, anyone that's a clinician, that's who I work with.
okay, so you're actually working in the medical field, but don't have anything to do with medicine.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, mainly it's with just trying to help the physicians knowing where to find the orders, how to do their day-to-day work, and know their workflows so that we can recreate them digitally, so that there's a smooth communication tool that kind of encompasses everything that they do in their day-to-day lives.
Okay, that's really interesting. So Epic is the software
Yeah.
package that the hospital uses?
Yes, yeah. So the way that Epic kind of works is that you can buy it as is, like a foundation. Like they'll just give it to you. You open up the box, you plug it in, and you can go. However, most hospital systems, what they do is they open it up, and there's a lot of ways that you can customize and build different
Okay.
features to fit whatever your campus's needs or whatever your states and requirements are, depending on what's going on. So we have more of that secondary one where we customize a lot of the things that
I
are in
see.
the system.
I see. So then you're probably interviewing the practitioners, the nurses, and asking them how they do what they do so that you can build the system to systematize it and make it perhaps easier or more digital.
Yeah, that's a great point. So what it kind of the premise of it came about was in 2012. It was a lot of shadowing, seeing how things worked in the real life, getting into the emergency department, watching and observing, then sitting down at a table with different leadership and the physicians and saying, here's what we got. And we meet with them ever since that point monthly. And we meet and discuss different topics. The meeting usually goes about an hour and a half, and you sit down face to face with them and they give you ideas of things they would love to see. And you work with them to try to make and let them know what's possible, what we can do to make that happen.
Wow, it sounds so exciting because I think, perhaps there are people that would never think of themselves as working in the medical field, but yet in central New York, we've got some amazing hospitals and a tremendous amount of opportunity. So that you actually took a more of a technical skill or an instructional skill and combined it with their medical knowledge.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating all the different areas that you can get into. Like, for instance, even sales. Maybe you've always been a great salesman, worked in retail, and then there's those avenues in the medical field, and those offer different opportunities. Same thing with training. Maybe you've done an after-school program where you're training or teaching or helping being a teacher's assistant in some way, and you tutor people.
Sure.
It's kind of the same premise. You're meeting with these people to try to make sure that they can understand and navigate and work on things. It could even be as simple as you being able to show your parents and different people you're around different technologies. If you're really good at being able to sit there, walk someone through something, it's definitely a possibility for you to be able to handle this type of career where you may not have thought about an instructional designer per se.
That's great. So you're designing the instruction. How much time do you spend actually delivering the instruction?
That's a good question. So it depends on our hiring kind of pattern. So we have a set schedule for when we're onboarding new people. Within a given month, it's usually 2 to 3 weeks minimum within a month. And usually for those weeks, I'm probably onboarding people maybe 2 days out of the week. So
Okay.
it's nothing where it's like you feel like you're around the clock training now that we've gotten through the big uh, onboarding of everybody from the entire campus and from the entire hospital. So I'd say usually a week in a given 40-hour week, I'm probably training about 16 hours out of those 40.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
rest are kind of what you were mentioning with the design. You're really always trying to look at different ways to instruct, teach, assist. And it may not always be verbally. It may be creating documents, creating videos, kind of doing step-by-step type of instruction like that with screenshots.
What do you like best? Do you like developing the instruction or delivering it?
I'm more of a deliverer, but I will tell you that among my colleagues, there's a very wide range. There are people that are very strong at creating documents. You're like, oh, wow, I would never have thought to make an so they can consolidate an 8-page lesson into like 2 pages, and it still has all the same information that they need. And then I have others that are very good at making online courses that can make, it very simple. So each one has its own skill set. You learn all of them, but
Mhm.
any profession, there's people who are stronger in certain areas than others. But
Sure. Wow, that's great. So what kind of a background would somebody need to get into this field?
that's a good question. So with that one, uh, I came in with a business background. That's my education. I have a bachelor's in business. Truthfully, any bachelor's, associate degrees are kind of what the level we're at. We even have a few people with master's degrees, and they can range. You can actually get an instructional designer master degree and bachelor's and associates. That is an actual education path you can take if that's something that really
Wow.
sticks out to you. But truthfully, as long as you know how to write well enough instructionally, and have structure to your writing, or be able to kind of explain or break down the thought process, really work with workflows. You really have so many avenues you can get into to get to this profession. So I wouldn't say there's a set path. There are certain paths, but it's mainly just about being able to you know take a huge complex software thing
Hmm.
and being able to really kind of speak to the nuts and bolts and just give people support.
Very good. Um, does Upstate offer like training? So if somebody, let's say, had an associate degree in instructional design, and then they came to work at Upstate, would there be a path for them to continue their education?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Upstate happens to be an academic facility, so we do have the colleges, and they are very big on continuing your education if you want to. And it also varies. I mean, you have things that if you are with a different union, all the unions offer something. They're just slightly
Mhm.
different. But there is assistance not only with paying tuition, but getting time off, getting certain time to study. They're very good about it. The way that we work, which is nice, and this is something that maybe students would want to look into, is that, for instance, when I came on with Epic, I learned right from Epic, and Epic is its own separate company that license out the software, and then they actually will train you. So I went to Madison, Wisconsin several times, and they have a very set track for teaching you how to learn the system.
Mhm.
And once you learn it, you have a certification. Now, I got that certification back in 2014. I could take that certification and I can apply it to anything. So, for instance, working in Upstate, now that we've already gone live, is like what we like to call it, launch the software. If another hospital, let's say hypothetically Kraus, bought the same software, I could go over there and to help them when they go live, because I already know the system, I know how it
Okay.
works. And so you can kind of work with any type of things. There's people that actually go into consulting after they get their certification, and they can work for several sites, building several little things that are in the system. So
Wow, that's fascinating.
yeah.
So, give me a salary range. Kids always want to know, and parents want to know, what would my child be earning if they were in this type of a career path?
That's a great, yeah. So when you come in, you could be a certified trainer. That's like the entry level position. And
Yep.
so that range is about 50 to 60,000 dollars. And then
Okay.
you get to my level, you can range anywhere just beyond 80. Now, when it comes to consulting, you could really kind of make your own kind of, I guess, pathway. It depends on what certifications you have,
Good.
different applications. If you want to think of it like this, you have Microsoft, but then within Microsoft, you have Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint, the whole 9 yards. Each one of those applications have different monetary levels kind of attached to them. So for instance, pharmacy within the Epic is one of the hardest ones to get certified in, because it deals with a lot of different math and different ways it's a very complex one.
Sure.
Whereas something that's more attainable could have a little bit different range. So you can get up into the 85, 90 range if you're
Okay.
consulting. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. So I know when we were talking yesterday, as a matter of fact, I asked you, like, from experiences of what's it like to train you know, doctors, you're teaching doctors, and you shared one story about a doctor that was doing everything by hand. So why don't you just relate that story to our
Yeah.
viewers?
Well, you meet people at all different kind of levels of expertise. These, no matter what, all these physicians I work with, they are the best in their field at what they do, which is treating patients, coming in and helping them with their ailments. Where they kind of can get a little bit shy is when it comes to technology and knowing how to interact with it to help them do their job. They've done their job for 30 plus years, 40 plus years without the needs of a computer. They were taught and worked their way up that way. So to have someone come in and say, now you need to use this, it can be a little bit intimidating, and it makes you question, why all of a sudden do I need this?
Sure.
But so one of the physicians, he had never even really written per se an email. He would print out his emails. His secretary would type up whatever he wrote out by hand, and he never actually had to use the computer before. And now we're expecting him to write 10 to 15 notes on each patient. And he's sitting at a keyboard thinking, now I got to just do the one finger thing. I can't
Right.
figure out everything quick. So we were able to make and create and customize over 4 meetings, 4 to 5 meetings it was. And really what we did is that we kind of made these simple key commands that automatically presented the text the way that he wanted it. And he was able to be efficient, accurate, and kind of find a better kind of marriage with the system. He was able to not realize that it wasn't going to hold him back. It wasn't going to keep him being the provider he was. It just allowed him actually a lot more free time, he found, where he didn't have to worry about writing out notes when he got home. He could spend time with his family when he was at home, and
Great.
have to take home or work home with him. So.
Sure. And I think the other thing you mentioned to me yesterday was that he was actually suggesting other things or asking, hey, could we do this? Could we do that?
Yep. So once he became comfortable with it, within a couple of weeks, we started getting emails. He's like, hey, this would actually be better. And they're great ideas. And they're things that we use today. Yeah. So once they get over that curve, it's surprising how someone that's the most resistant can somehow be the best to give you insight to what could make life easier for people.
That's just awesome. So, my last probably question here is, so what kind of a student, what kind of a person would be best to go into this type of a career?
I'd say the best person, the people that we look for are people that are patient off the bat. You got to be patient. You can't expect people to learn things at the pace you learn. I think you have to be flexible also in the sense of how you deliver information.
Mhm.
In today's world, even as a student, you may learn hands-on, you may learn verbally better. You may learn just from watching a video and you can just repeat it right away. You don't need the hands-on or anything.
Sure.
So you have to be able to know how to meet each person's needs, because adult learners are the same as any other learner. They have a variety of ways they want to be taught, and you have to package what you're teaching them in a bunch of different ways. I think you have to have someone that's can pick up systems on their own and kind of
Okay.
be able to figure out, like, okay, if I'm seeing something, you can troubleshoot and help yourself in a sense. Like if I see something that's up, I'm able to pinpoint this is the 3 things that could be. And you have to be able to collaborate and kind of work with a team. You have a team of builders that is right above you. So
Mhm.
you're kind of the liaison between the builders who are very technical, and then you have the end users who are just normal everyday physicians, nurses, techs, and you have to kind of be that translator so that when they say something, it makes sense to the programmers, and the programmers, when they say something, you can translate that over, because the words we use are so important, and it's very easy to miscommunicate and not be on the same page. So if you're someone that can sit there and listen to 2 different types of people communicating, and you can translate that for them so that they're on the same page, I think that's a really key gift or key skill to have for this type of position.
That's awesome. That is just great. There was one thing we talked about yesterday that I didn't want us to miss: work-life balance. So I know I have some sons in the medical field, and they're working incredible hours. What's it? Tell me what your schedule's like.
I think that's a great piece of the kind of the work here, is that you have a lot of command over your own schedule. You're Once you get your certification and everything through, it's really you being able to set up the times when it works for you to try to train people. So right now, working in a COVID-like world, I work remote, and I'll probably be working remote from this point on. And when I want to, I can go into the office and train and use a classroom and train people. But I also have the ability to use web conferences like this. I really put in about 40, 45 hours a week, but those hours are mine to kind of figure out what I want to do. There are certain days where I want to do a lot of, lesson planning, as we call it, or instructional designing. There's other ones where I may want to do, all my trainings in one day. But what it allows me the most opportunity is to take advantage of other things Upstate offers. There's committees I am on. I'm on the board of directors for a couple of nonprofits. And so I get to fill my time and yet still be contributing to my job, and not feel tied down. And when I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. You don't feel like you're checking email all the time or getting calls.
Great.
You don't feel like you're at your computer at 10 or 9 or 10 or 11 at night, trying to get stuff done.
Good.
As long as you're able to set benchmarks for yourself, that's kind of the blessing of this position, is that you can really set yourself up to know and expect what you need time for. So
That's great. Michael, thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending some of your valuable time to help these young people figure out what this job's all about. Any last words that you think they could benefit from?
I think overall, just never be afraid to take the opportunity to try to reach out and job shadow somebody. I think
Great.
the best advice I can give is just, open yourself up to as many opportunities to go and observe something. I think a lot of times, something that I always thought of when I was young was I wanted to be a pediatrician. I wanted to be a physician. And when I got through college, I started observing them and really asking them pinpoint questions of like, what's your lifestyle about? Like, how long did it take to get to this point? And when you start to figure out the ages and the time and things like that, it's something you want to consider when moving forward with something, because when it comes to those jobs, they're amazing. And I give physicians and nurses all the credit in the world, but there's also a lot of schooling and, debts and things you have to consider, and lifestyle that you probably won't be able to attain for at least 10 years down the road. So it's just always kind of never be afraid to ask questions, direct questions, and shadow, because that's the best knowledge that you can have when you're really trying to pick out a career that will fit you, instead of, ending up in thinking a career or something. And then once you're sitting in those shoes, you realize it's a whole different world than maybe you expected. So.
Great advice. Thank you so much. And again, thanks for taking this time. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and look forward to perhaps meeting with you sometime down the road. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, David.